Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the children of Vista Kids. I'm so glad to be able to bring a Bible story to you today. And it comes right out of the Bible, out of Joshua chapter 2. You know, if you have a Bible at home that looks something like this with pictures in it, you might be able to find this story and read it for yourself later. That would be so awesome. Or if you have a Bible storybook that looks like this, oh, this has a great story in it too. This is a wonderful story. Story about a woman named Rehab. Now, the children of Israel, who God loves so much, are finally entering the promised land. After 40 years of wandering, they're getting to go into the promised land. And it's an exciting time. But in the promised land, there are fortified cities and there are big, big challenges. Not too big for God's people with God helping them though. And so I'm going to tell you about Rehab today. And I want to let you know just a little bit. You see my little audience here? I've got Green Bear and Rescue Ranger and Fozzie Bear and Pretzel. Pretzel's a little monkey back here. And then I got Blue Puppy and Kermie. I bet you wonder how I named it Blue Puppy, huh? And another Rescue Ranger and G.I. Joe and Monster Googly Eyes. And I brought them along because, you know, I taught my first lesson when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I put my friends like this on the stairs of my basement, and I stood at the bottom and I told them an incredible story about God's power. And so I just thought I'd bring them along for support. Since I don't get to see you in person, at least I got my audience here with me. And anyways, let's talk about Rehab. Rehab lives in the city of Jericho. It's a very fortified, meaning a very strongly fortressed, is big, strong walls. You're going to hear a lot about it probably in your next lesson. She lives there, and she would get no crowns for being a perfect lady. She was not a perfect lady. She was nowhere near getting a crown for how she behaved. And trophies? No. She'll get no trophies for good behavior. No. She was not that kind of a person. She actually had done some very, well, bad things. And she lives in this city, and it just so happens that this is the first city the children of Israel are going to cross over and come against. And Joshua tells these two men, he said, go and spy out the land that we're going into, the promised land, and especially Jericho. So these spies go into Jericho, and Rehab, who happens to live on the, believe it or not, she lives on the wall of the city. The city walls are so big and immense that she can actually have a house on the wall. She lives on the wall, and while they're there, you know, they check things out, and their men of Jericho realize that there's some spies from Israel who came to check out their city. And so they came knocking on Rahab's door, and they said, where are they, Rehab? Where are they? What they didn't realize is Rehab, she had taken those men up, further up onto the roof area of the wall, and she had covered them up in some grain called flax. And she hid them there. And she told those men from Jericho, oh, they're not here anymore. They left the city. They went that away. And she sent them that away. And then she uncovered the men from Israel, and she said, please remember me when you come. We know your God is strong. This is fascinating. She said, we remember how you crossed the Red Sea with the help of your God. That was 40 years earlier. And we know how you conquered the kings of the Amorites. They had heard the stories of God helping Israel in miraculous ways. And the city of Jericho was very fearful, extremely fearful. And she said, please, please remember me. And the men of Israel said, we will remember you. When we come back, if you hang this scarlet cord, now obviously this isn't the scarlet cord, but a scarlet color is reddish. And if you and it was probably a rope, not this silky thing. But if you hang this from your window, and remember she's got a window on the wall of the city. If you hang this in your window, when we come, we won't harm anybody who's in your house. So you can gather your mother, your father, your brothers, and if they're in your house, we can't promise to keep you safe if you're not in your house with the red cord. But if you're there, you'll be safe. So then she let them down through the window, and they climbed down on a rope, and she said, head into the hill country for 3 days. That's right, Pretzel, 3 days. Head into the hill country for 3 days and hide. And by then they'll be done looking for you, and then you'll be free to get back to your people. And that's exactly what they did. They ran to the hill country, they hid for 3 days. By then the men of Jericho came back from searching for them, and the spies went back to Joshua and they said, they're afraid of us. They know God is with us. And they told him about Rehab. Now, I want to tell you, you're going to hear more about Jericho in the next lesson, but I want to tell you something about Rehab. Some people think, and I guess it's so, when he said, go spy out the land, go check it out, do you think God really needed them to spy it out? I'm not sure, because God could just download those plans right into Joshua's heart. In fact, he does. He meets with Joshua and he tells him what to do. I think that a big reason that he sent those spies into Jericho was to find the one woman whose heart said, I believe in your God. Do you think I could be safe? I didn't say saved, but safe. But her crying out to say, do you think I could be safe? God knew what that meant. He knew her heart had a place for him. He knew her heart had a place for him. And so God is sending 2 men from wonderful Israel who's been following God into this fortified city filled with really bad practices. The Bible, well, we learn from history that Jericho did some really barbaric things. That's another big word. That means they did some really bad things. And they had times, years and years before, they could have not had their hearts hardened, but they did. And I brought a little something with me. Brought some of this and some of this. And you know, if you were in Israel, you might be a person who had a heart for God, just attracted to God, just like this magnet attracts all these paper clips. And God cares about each and every one of their lives, every one of them. This is a really super strong magnet. Now, I don't know if you know about magnets, but strong magnets shouldn't come near certain things. Anyways, and here's the people of Jericho. Oh, it was filled with people who loved wickedness. But somewhere, there was one person who wanted to know God. It was Rehab. And God cared enough to send 2 spies into Jericho to make sure she had a plan of safety. Now, she was brave. She went against everything the people of Jericho were doing. She said, I want a different way. If the people of her city had found out, she probably would have been killed. She was extremely brave. She was brave. She was brave to stand alone from all these people in her city and say, I want to do things differently. She was brave. And aren't you glad that we have a God who can hold the whole world in his hand, and he knows where everybody is, and he sees the city of Jericho, and he knows there's a heart in Jericho that he wants to spare. He doesn't want her destroyed because she has a heart for him. Isn't that something? I just love that about God. Well, that's our lesson for today. Jesus, I pray that you would seal the seed of this word into the hearts of the hearers. God cares about the individuals who say, God, I believe. God, I want you. Amen? Amen. everybody. Pretzel, Blue Puppy,